I found my wife cheating with our divorce lawyer, and now she's claiming I owe her $300, $0 in false property claims. I never expected our separation would turn into a legal nightmare over betrayal and money. I never thought I'd be the guy to find out my wife was cheating on me, let alone with our divorce lawyer. Honestly, I thought everything was fine. Normal arguments, maybe some silent treatments, but nothing that screamed betrayal. Then again, I should have known something was off the moment she started acting weird about her phone. My wife had always been a bit bitchy and manipulative, but she was also charming when she wanted to be. Still, I never suspected she'd cheat on me with someone we trusted, our lawyer of all people. It all started about 3 months ago. We'd been married for 10 years and I thought we had a good thing going. We had a house, decent jobs, 2 kids I loved more than anything. But she'd been distant lately, snapping at me over small things, avoiding conversations, and spending a lot of time on her phone late at night. I noticed her deleting messages, hiding her screen when I came into the room, but I didn't think much of it at first. I thought maybe she was just stressed about work or something. Still, I felt a gnawing suspicion that something was wrong. One day, I was at home alone, working on some paperwork in the living room, when I noticed her laptop was open on the coffee table. I usually didn't touch her stuff, but I was curious. I saw her email inbox was still logged in, and I thought maybe I'd check her recent emails just to see if everything was okay. I wasn't trying to snoop, just looking for some reassurance, but what I found was anything but reassuring. There were dozens of emails between her and a guy named Jake, our divorce lawyer. The subject lines were things like meeting tonight, important documents, can't wait to see you, and our little secret. My stomach dropped. I clicked open one of the messages, and it was clear they'd been meeting in secret, talking about more than just legal stuff. There were texts about their plans to meet up after hours, to go to dinner, to discuss the case. But I knew better. The tone was intimate, flirtatious even. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I read through more emails than some texts, steamy, suggestive exchanges that confirmed my worst fears. Was cheating on me with Jake. I couldn't believe it. The woman I'd loved, trusted, and shared everything with had been lying to my face all this time. I felt numb, like the ground had shifted beneath me. My mind raced, trying to process how she could do this after everything. I remembered the nights she'd come home late, the excuses about work, the business trips she'd taken. It all made sense now. She'd been sneaking around for months, probably longer. The worst part, I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't want her to deny it or spin some bullshit story. I had the evidence right in front of me. That evening, I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I called her into the living room, trying to keep my voice steady. When she walked in, I could see the guilt in her eyes, but she tried her usual bitchy smirk, like she thought she could manipulate her way out of this. I slammed the laptop shut and looked her straight in the eye. "So," I said, my voice trembling but firm, "I know about Jake. I know you've been cheating on me with our lawyer. How long has this been going on?" She blinked, then scoffed. "You're overreacting. You're just jealous because I'm more successful than you. Jake just helping me with the divorce, nothing more." I felt rage bubbling up. "Don't lie to me. I found the emails. I know you've been sneaking around behind my back. How long has this been going on?" She scoffed again, crossing her arms. "You think I'd cheat on you? Please. You're not even worth my time. Maybe you're just mad because I don't want to be with someone who's so insecure." That was the moment I realized her lies weren't going to stop. She was good at twisting things, making herself look innocent while throwing dirt at me. But I wasn't about to fall for her bullshit anymore. The betrayal cut so deep, I didn't even know what to feel first, anger, sadness, or just pure disappointment. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what yet. All I knew was that my world had flipped upside down, and I was standing there trying to hold myself together while she continued to deny everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head, her sneaking around, her lies, the way she looked at me when I confronted her. I felt stupid for trusting her so blindly all these years. But what hurt the most was not just the affair. It was the realization that she'd been planning her escape behind my back, possibly even using me for money. And that's when I started to think about the bigger picture. about her claims that I owed her money, her accusations, and how this was just the beginning of a nightmare I hadn't seen coming. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of everything. I couldn't believe had been lying to me for so long, and now I was faced with the reality that I'd been completely blind to her manipulations. The emails, the secret meetings, they all confirmed what I'd suspected, but actually seeing it laid out so blatantly made it hit harder. I knew. I needed to act fast. I decided to dig deeper. I logged into our joint bank account, and what I saw made my stomach turn. Had been draining money from our savings, making secret payments to Jake, probably under the table, of course. There were transfers I didn't recognize, large sums that disappeared without explanation. She'd been planning her escape for months, using my trust and our shared assets as her leverage. I couldn't believe I'd been so naive, thinking she was just stressed or busy with work. Turns out she was busy planning her own version of freedom, at my expense. I also started to notice other signs that I'd missed before. Had been unusually secretive about her phone, always hiding it, deleting messages after she thought I wasn't looking. She'd gotten really good at lying, but I was finally starting to see through it all. The betrayal cut deep, but what hurt even more was the realization that she'd been manipulating me financially, emotionally, and physically. I felt like I'd been played for a fool. That night, I sat her down again. I wanted answers, and I needed to hear her explain herself, but I also wanted her to know I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her I'd found the emails, the bank transfers, everything. Her reaction was classic defensive, bitchy, and dismissive. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, and that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. She said her meetings with Jake were purely professional, that I was imagining things, and that I was just trying to control her. I looked at her and said, "Control? No. I just don't want to be played for a fool anymore. You've been lying to me for months, maybe longer. I saw the emails, I saw the bank transfers. You've been using me, haven't you?" She scoffed again, rolling her eyes. "You're just mad because I don't want to be with someone who's so insecure, and you're accusing me of all this without proof. Typical." That's when I realized I couldn't trust her anymore. The woman I married had turned into a liar and a thief, and I knew I had to protect myself. I told her she needed to leave the house. She spat back at me, claiming I owed her money 300 in property claims she'd made up, trying to paint herself as the victim. That moment was a slap in the face. I knew this wasn't just about infidelity anymore. It was about her greed and her willingness to throw me under the bus to save herself. As she packed her bags and stormed out, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. I'd caught her red-handed, but the damage was done. I started to think about what this all meant for my future, for my kids, and for my own sanity. I knew I'd have to get a lawyer, and I'd have to fight to protect what was mine. My house, my savings, my reputation. I couldn't let her get away with this, and I definitely wasn't going to let her walk out with a dime more than she deserved. In the days that followed, I reached out to a lawyer. We began to prepare for the legal battle ahead. Was claiming I owed her a fortune in false property claims, claims I knew were fabricated, designed to drain me financially and keep me under her thumb. It was clear she was more interested in money and control than in any real reconciliation. My trust was shattered, but my resolve was stronger than ever. I was done being the fool. Now it was time to fight back and reclaim what was rightfully mine. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation where I was fighting my own wife over money, reputation, and betrayal. The more I dug into her claims, the more obvious it became that was trying to pull a fast one. She was claiming I owed her $300, $0 in property and assets she said I was hiding or refusing to give her. Of course, it was all bullshit, her way of trying to squeeze me dry and, frankly, punish me for catching her cheating. But I was not going to let her get away with it. Once I got the lawyer involved, things escalated quickly. She hired her own team, of course, and suddenly this wasn't just about our marriage anymore. It was a full-blown legal war. This lawyer, a slick guy named Todd, kept pushing the narrative that I was a deadbeat who was trying to hide assets and cheat her out of her rightful property. I knew it was lies. I had the bank. Statements, the emails, everything. But was good at twisting the truth, and Todd was a master at playing dirty. Meanwhile, was still playing the victim. She'd call me every day, crying, pretending she was so hurt and wronged. She'd say things like, "You're just jealous because I found someone better," or "You're trying to ruin me because I left you." She made it sound like I was the bad guy, that she was just trying to get her fair share. But I knew better. I knew she was trying to drain me financially, and her accusations about me hiding assets were just a way to distract from her own lies. One day, she showed up at my office, looking bitchy as ever, trying to intimidate me in front of my. She had her lawyer with her, and they tried to serve me papers right there. I was furious. I told her straight up that I wasn't going to be bullied, that I had all the evidence to prove she was lying. I felt like I was in some kind of legal movie, only it was real life, and I was the one fighting for everything. That night I sat down and went through every piece of documentation I had. I compiled a list of her lies, her secret bank transfers, the emails, everything. I wanted to be ready for the next court date. I knew she was trying to manipulate the system, but I also knew I had the truth on my side. Had always been a bitch when things didn't go her way, and now she was showing her true colors. Her manipulative, money-hungry side. She kept claiming I was a deadbeat, that I was hiding money, that I was trying to cheat her out of her rightful property. But the truth was, she was the one hiding things. She'd been secretly moving money around, making secret deals, and trying to set me up for a fall. I'd never seen someone so blatantly dishonest. It was like she thought she could just lie her way out of everything. But I had hard proof, and I was determined to use it. In the meantime, kept throwing accusations and trying to sway the judge in her favor. She was good at being bitchy, at playing the victim, and at making herself look innocent, but I knew her game. I knew she was just trying to save herself from the mess she created. The more she lied, the more I saw through her. I had to stay calm, keep my head clear, and let the evidence speak for itself. Honestly, the emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted all at once. Every time I thought about her sneaking around, about her trying to screw me over with these false property claims, I just wanted to scream. But I knew I couldn't let her see me break. I had to be strong for myself and for the kids. I realized that this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about her complete disregard for the vows we took, her willingness to destroy what we built for her own greed. Looking back, I see how she tried to manipulate everyone, her friends, her family, even the judge. She painted herself as the victim, but underneath it all, she was just a bitch who'd do anything to get what she wanted. And I was just the guy who trusted her for too long. Now I was fighting to get back what was mine, my dignity, my assets, and my peace of mind. I knew this fight wasn't over, but I also knew I wouldn't let her win without a battle. The court date finally arrived after months of legal back and forth, and I was more prepared than I'd ever been. Claims of owing her $300, $0 in property, were just her latest scheme to squeeze me dry and make herself look innocent. I had all the evidence, bank statements, emails, even some recorded conversations where she admitted to moving money around to hide assets. I knew she was trying to pull a fast one, but I also knew I had the truth on my side. Walking into that courtroom, I felt a mixture of anger and determination. Sat across from me, her bitchy smirk in full display, trying to look confident and innocent. Her lawyer, Todd, kept whispering in her ear, probably coaching her on which lies to spin next. I could see right through her performance. She was good at pretending to be the victim, but I knew her game. She was a manipulative, money-hungry bitch who'd do anything to keep her claws in my assets. The judge called the hearing to order and started her spiel. She insisted I was hiding money, that I owed her the $300, $0, and that I was a deadbeat who was trying to cheat her out of her rightful property. She kept crying, making herself look fragile, and spun some sob story about how she deserved a fair share after everything she'd been through. But I wasn't buying it. I had all the receipts. I waved my folder of evidence and calmly explained how she'd been secretly transferring money, hiding assets, and lying about her expenses. When it was my turn, I laid out everything clearly. I pointed out the bank transfers, the emails, and even some witness statements from people who knew about her scheming. I told the judge that had been planning her escape for months, using our shared assets as leverage, and that her claims were fabricated to extort me. I could see her face trying to stay composed, but behind her eyes I saw the bitchiness and desperation. She knew she was losing. The judge listened carefully, asking questions and going through my evidence. It was clear she saw through's lies, but I could tell she was also wary of getting caught up in the drama. When the judge finally made her ruling, she dismissed claims of owing me money, stating that there was no credible evidence to support her accusations. She also ordered to pay back some of the funds she transferred illegally, and she warned her about making false claims in court. That moment felt like a small victory, but I knew the fight wasn't over yet. Was furious, but her bitchy attitude was starting to crack under the pressure. She stormed out of the courtroom, shouting about how she'd destroy me, but I just felt relief. For the first time in months, I felt like I was finally getting some justice. After the hearing, I sat alone in my car, feeling the weight of everything lift just a little. I realized how much this whole ordeal had changed me. I'd gone from trusting her blindly to fighting for my life, my assets, and my sanity. I started to understand that the betrayal was deeper than I'd thought. This was about her greed, her manipulation, and her complete lack of respect for what we once had. In the days that followed, I began to rebuild my life. I hired a new lawyer to handle the remaining issues, including the custody of the kids and the division of property. Was trying one last time to manipulate the situation, but I wasn't falling for her games anymore. I knew her bitchy, manipulative side, and I was prepared to stand my ground. I also started seeing a counselor because I realized I'd been through a lot emotionally, and I needed help processing everything. Looking back, I see how her betrayal and lies opened my eyes. I learned not to trust blindly, to keep my guard up, and to fight for what's right. I also learned that some people are just out for themselves, no matter who they hurt. If there's one thing I want others to take away from this, it's that honesty and integrity are everything. And if you're betrayed like I was, the best thing you can do is stand firm, gather your evidence, and fight for your own peace of mind. After the court's decision, I thought I'd finally get some peace, but wasn't done trying to manipulate the situation. She immediately started claiming I owed her more money, 300 in false property claims, she insisted, and she was threatening to sue me for every penny she believed she was entitled to. It was classic bitchy, entitled, and always twisting things to serve her own greed. I knew I had to be smarter than her this time, or else she'd find a way to drain me dry. I hired a new attorney, someone recommended by a friend who specialized in financial disputes and high-stakes divorce cases. From the start, I knew this was going to be a long haul. Accusations were baseless, but her tactics were relentless. She kept filing motions, sending threatening emails, and trying to intimidate me into settling for her fair share. Meanwhile, I was gathering every piece of evidence I could: bank records, communication logs, witness statements, anything to prove she was lying. One afternoon called me out of the blue, her voice bitchy and high-pitched. She claimed I owed her money, that I'd been hiding assets, and that she'd destroy me if I didn't settle. I told her I wasn't going to fall for her manipulative tactics anymore. I told her that the court had already dismissed her claims, and I'd be happy to go back to court if she wanted to keep wasting everyone's time. She hung up, but I could hear her bitchy attitude in her voice, like she was just trying to wear me down. The next few weeks were filled with court filings, subpoenas, and more accusations. Kept claiming I was hiding assets, but I had nothing to hide. I was transparent about everything: my bank accounts, my investments, my income. The problem was, she was good at lying and her lawyer was skilled at twisting facts. I knew she was trying to pull a fast one, but I was prepared. One day, I found out she'd hired a private investigator, probably to dig up dirt on me. I wasn't surprised. Had always been bitchy and manipulative, and she'd do anything to win. I decided to counter her move by hearing my own investigator, just to see what she was up to. Turns out she'd been trying to dig up old dirt, looking for anything to use against me in court, even old mistakes I'd made years ago. I felt anger rising in me. How far was she willing to go just to win? Meanwhile, I kept my focus on the bigger picture. I knew this was all about control, its need to dominate and manipulate, her obsession with money, her bitchy attitude that made her think she was above everyone else. I refused to let her ruin me. I started preparing a detailed financial statement, making sure everything was transparent and above board. I also began to distance myself emotionally, realizing I couldn't trust her or rely on her anymore. In the midst of all this, I also realized I needed to focus on myself and my kids. I hired a counselor, started working out more, and tried to rebuild my confidence. I couldn't change bitchy nature or her greed, but I could control how I responded. I refused to let her drag me down. I also made a conscious decision to be more cautious. No more blind trust, no more ignoring red flags. Looking back, I see how her lies and manipulations only made me stronger. I learned that some people are just out for themselves, and the best way to protect yourself is to stay vigilant, gather evidence, and stand your ground. I realized that revenge isn't always about striking back physically or emotionally. It's about making sure justice is served, about proving you're not the fool she thought you could manipulate. And I can say with certainty that I'm finally starting to reclaim my life, piece by piece. The final few months have been brutal, but I finally feel like I'm starting to breathe again. After all the legal battles, the accusations, the manipulations, I can honestly say I've learned more about myself than I ever thought I would. This bitchy, entitled attitude, her relentless lies, and her greed almost broke me, but I refused to let her win. In the end, I think I came out stronger, more cautious, and more aware of what real trust means. The court finally ruled in my favor on most of the outstanding issues. Claims of owing her $300, $0 in false property were dismissed outright. The judge saw through her manipulations, and I was awarded full custody of the kids, with her having limited visitation. It was a relief, but also a bitter taste, knowing how much damage she'd done, how much pain she'd caused just to get her way. Still, I knew I had to focus on rebuilding my life. I moved out of the house, got my own place, and started fresh. The kids are doing okay, more resilient than I ever imagined, and I'm slowly healing. I've learned that betrayal can come from the people you trust most, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply living your truth, walking away from the chaos, and not letting someone like destroy what little peace you have left. Looking back, I realized that her bitchy, manipulative nature was just her way of trying to control everything, even my life. But I refused to let her. I learned to be cautious, to not take trust for granted, and to always have my eyes open. The experience has made me more vigilant about who I let into my life and what I'm willing to tolerate. I now know that some people are just out for what they can get, and you have to protect yourself. And honestly, I'm grateful for the lessons. Betrayal hurts like hell, but it also teaches you what truly matters: your integrity, your dignity, and your ability to stand up for yourself. Greed and manipulations showed me that sometimes you have to fight dirty just to protect what's yours. I did that, and I've come out on the other side, stronger than I was before. To anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts, gather evidence, don't be afraid to stand your ground, and never let someone else's bitchiness or greed define your worth. Because in the end, the only person responsible for your happiness and peace is you. And I'm finally starting to feel like I can reclaim mine.